got to live in the form that I designed and ordered myself, a soft, flexible, and healthy body. Even though this body is artificial and this miraculous product is just an experimental version, I am still willing to take the risk. Take a rest, Louis. Lily will definitely take the role of the Swan Queen for you. And also Thomas. Thomas is the person I have secretly admired for over 10 years. We practically grew up together in the practice room, but Thomas is the best. He was chosen by the director for the lead male role, and now he and the director are looking for the lead female role. Last month I got injured during practice, and I lost the chance to share the stage with Thomas. In my most desperate moment, I found the Mimeticore and created a Lily for myself. Now, seeing the surprise in Thomas's eyes, I feel a bit excited. Will he recognize me?
Hello, Lily. Please perform your piece.
I repeated every move from memory, every step, every spin flowed smoothly on Lily's feet, as if I had always been Lily. And I really did it. The director chose me for the lead female role. The performance will take place in 2 months. Thomas and I need to practice together a lot to quickly increase our chemistry. I feel that Thomas always keeps his distance and silently observes me. Finally, he asked about my earrings. These are the earrings Thomas gave me when I was Louis, but I never dared to wear them until I became Lily. But in front of Thomas, I could only explain that I bought these earrings myself. I saw a hint of disappointment in Thomas's eyes as he turned away. A bad feeling arose in my heart.
A week of practice quickly passed, and I returned to being Louis. Looking at the face I meticulously designed lying in front of me, I felt overwhelming happiness. Lily is the life I have always dreamed of. I used the excuse of family matters to ask to practice at home for a week. So, Thomas texted to check on me. I was delighted that Thomas seemed to be getting closer to Lily, and at the same time a bit of jealousy began to grow. I recklessly practiced ballet, using the pain to remind myself that Louis is my true identity, my real life, and ballet is the greatest passion of my life. But the more I did that, the more pathetic I felt. I had to accept the truth that I needed Lily.
I returned to the practice room, confidently striding onto the stage. The moves that Louis couldn't do, Lily could easily perform perfectly. Receiving Thomas's recognition made me even more convinced that using the miraculous substance was absolutely right. I wanted to stay in Lily's body forever, or at least until the performance was over. The first time I broke the 7-day rule was when I had to attend the launch party organised by the director. I comforted myself, thinking I just needed to play the role of Lily for a few more hours.
But when I woke up, I had to pay the price for my greed. Looking at my aged legs, I screamed in pain. My dancing career under the name Louis was officially over. I frantically called the supplier, but only received a cold response.
Remember, you are one, respect the balance, and there will be no more incidents.
I fell into a deep crisis. My dream of standing on stage had vanished. But I still have Lily. As long as I have Lily, I still have a chance to be the proud swan soaring on stage.
I decided to break the rule, to have the perfect moment on stage. I was willing to pay the price, even if it was my life. The side effects of the elixir have begun to appear. Despite having injected enough marrow fluid, Lily's body occasionally undergoes self-destruction reactions. I have contacted the elixir supplier, but only received the response that my clone is not highly compatible with the original body, so the effectiveness of the medicine is also reduced. Finally, the performance day has arrived, but before going on stage, my body encountered a problem. I intended to continue injecting spinal fluid, but the reserve has run out. I am not willing to give up. In just a few hours, I will achieve my dream. I must replenish the spinal fluid immediately. Seeing the festering sores on Louis's back, I couldn't help but feel heartbroken. However, I was determined to seize this performance opportunity. I extracted Louis's marrow fluid, but what came out was an unusually dark red colour. Worried, I called the supplier and was told that I had to perform the transfer immediately. Louis's body needed to regenerate the marrow fluid. I couldn't think too much about it. What I needed was a healthy body to complete the performance. I recklessly injected the dark red fluid into myself. Wearing the white dress I had always dreamed of, I confidently stepped onto the biggest stage of my life. The grand performance was a success. Under the stage lights, I became the white swan I had always longed to be. At this moment, I knew I had achieved the perfection I had always sought. I mustered all my courage to confess my feelings to Thomas. But he only gave a sad smile. He told me that the person he loves is Louis, and that the initial reason he noticed me was because I resembled Louis so much. My heart felt like it was being pierced. In that moment, I felt as if the whole world was mocking me. The self-destruction reaction appeared again, and I had to return, deciding to swap with Louis once more.
When I woke up in Louis's body, an overwhelming sense of emptiness enveloped me. Now my dream of standing on stage had been achieved. I had also heard the confession from the person I had always secretly loved. I thought I had nothing left to regret. I was ready to accept myself, no matter how flawed this body might be. I saw Lily's body begin to disintegrate, pieces of flesh falling away just like my dream of another life gradually fading. I restarted the phone I hadn't dared to use for a long time. As soon as it turned on, a series of messages from Thomas popped up, shocking me. It turned out he missed me just as much. I urgently wanted to hear Thomas's voice. Thomas immediately answered the phone, and I could feel the joy in his voice. Each word of concern made my heart race.
Louis, I like you, no matter what form you take.
Me too. The words of agreement had not yet been spoken when a disgusting, slimy substance from Lily's body came to attack me. I felt that slime trying to engulf me. In my head, I heard the devils whisper,
"You are one."
Louis? Louis? Are you okay? Louis?
I've always hated the way I looked. My crooked nose, uneven skin, weak jawline. Nothing ever seemed right. No amount of working out or dieting could fix my flaws. It wasn't just me either, the world agreed. Beauty is born, not made, they said, and I began to believe it. I started to resent my body, my face, everything about me that didn't match what was perfect. Then came Bieber, the doll. It was everywhere, plastered on billboards, filling up social media feeds. The perfect figure, smooth skin, the proportions of a goddess. People didn't just admire Bieber, they worshipped it. Even celebrities, already attractive, began going under the knife to look more like it. It became the beauty standard. And me? I wanted it too. I wanted to be admired, desired, perfect. That night, I was just a volunteer at one of those exclusive, high society parties, serving drinks to the rich and beautiful, the people who were already living the perfect life I longed for. Dr. Valois was the guest of honor. Everyone knew who he was, the man behind the Bieber doll and the revolutionary surgeries that promised no pain, only perfection. His speech that evening was mesmerizing. He talked about creating a flawless world, a world where beauty reigned, where everyone could look as perfect as Bieber. Beauty is made, not born. His words sank deep into my bones. I could be perfect too. I could be a part of that world. Then came the raffle. I never gamble. Luck had never been kind to me. But something pushed me to join this time. My heart raced as I dropped my number into the box. I wasn't expecting to win. It was just a small, desperate hope, a dream. And then against all odds, my number was called. I didn't win the grand prize, but third prize was more than enough. I could choose one feature to fix, one part of me to be perfected. Dr. Valois smiled at me.
So tell me, what do you want to change?
Without hesitation, I said, my nose. It was the most obvious flaw, the center of my face. I thought if I fixed that, maybe everything else would look better too. The hospital was like a different world. Everyone there looked like they had stepped out of a dream. Smooth, flawless faces, perfectly proportioned bodies like real-life versions of the Bieber doll. The surgery was quick, painless, just like they promised. When I removed the bandages and saw my new reflection, I couldn't believe it. My nose was perfect. I looked handsome. I had never felt that before. The compliments came fast. People noticed me. They wanted to talk to me. Photographers, casting agents. They all said I looked like a movie star. They started calling me Human Doll Kang. And for once, I wasn't ashamed of my face. I was one of them, the beautiful people. But it didn't last. The more attention I got, the more I craved. It wasn't enough to just have a nice nose. If I wanted to stay in this world, I had to keep going. I had to become even more perfect. I drained my savings into more procedures. Muscle implants, jaw sculpting, leg lengthening. Why bother working out when a quick injection could give you a body like a Greek god? Every surgery brought me closer to that doll-like perfection. But every surgery also made me want more. My skin wasn't smooth enough. My face wasn't flawless enough. I needed my skin to be tight, shiny, like the porcelain dolls I saw everywhere. So I went back to Dr. Valois. I begged him to do more. At first, he refused.
You were pushing too far. That perfection had its limits.
But I wouldn't listen. I demanded Botox more than ever before. I wanted my skin to be absolutely perfect. And eventually, he gave in. That was my mistake. The moment I woke up from the last surgery, I knew something was wrong. My face felt tight, like it was being stretched over a frame too small for it. The skin was too smooth, too unnatural. I ran to the mirror and nearly vomited at what I saw. My face was swollen beyond recognition. The symmetry that once made me handsome had turned monstrous. My features were bloated, distorted. The skin around my eyes was so tight. I could barely blink. My cheeks were lumpy, my lips grotesquely swollen. I wasn't a doll. I was a freak. I panicked. I begged Dr. Valois to fix it, but he refused. He said there was nothing more he could do, that my body had reached its limit. But I didn't care. I snuck into the clinic one night, stole syringes, Botox, anything I could get my hands on. I injected my face over and over, desperate to smooth out the bumps, to stretch my skin into something beautiful again. And then, it ripped. I kept injecting, kept trying to force my face into something it could never be. The skin on my cheeks split open, blood pouring down in thick streams. My lips burst, swollen, flesh tearing apart like overfilled balloons. My eyes, God, my eyes. The pressure made them bulge so much I thought they'd pop out of my skull. I collapsed on the floor, blinded by blood and pain, gasping for breath. That's when I felt a hand on my shoulder. Dr. Valois.
You've ruined it!
He whispered, his voice cold, detached.
You were so close, but now look at you.
I tried to speak, but my lips wouldn't move. Blood filled my mouth, choking me.
The world I'm creating is for the perfect. There's no room for the ugly.
And then, with one swift motion, he plunged the syringe into my neck, sending me collapsing to the floor. The last thing I saw before my vision faded was his smile. Perfect. Flawless. Inhuman. I had chased perfection. And in the end, it destroyed me.
I couldn't believe it. Piddy, the Piddy everyone adored, the one with the flawless smile and undeniable charm, had asked me to spend the night with him. Not at some glitzy hotel, but at his secret mansion, hidden away from the world. My heart raced with excitement. I was just a normal girl, and yet here I was, chosen by a celebrity like him. It felt like I was living in a dream. As we arrived, the place looked grand, yet isolated, like it had been forgotten by time. But I didn't mind. Piddy was next to me, and that was all I cared about. Piddy led me straight to his bedroom. He grabbed a bottle of baby oil, pouring far too much into his hands, rubbing it across his skin in a way that seemed meant to be seductive. It felt strange, or maybe that was just his style. I tried to brush off the unease. This was supposed to be a special night after all. We had an intense night together. And afterward, we talked. Something in our conversation shifted my view of him. He told me he loved me, but then handed me a pill and casually suggested I take it to avoid pregnancy. It felt oddly transactional, cold. Soon after, he drifted off to sleep. Piddy seemed distant, not the warm and charming man I thought I knew. Maybe he was just tired. I lay beside him, trying to calm my nerves. Then I heard it. A soft whisper cut through the silence. I froze, straining to listen. It wasn't Piddy, he was fast asleep beside me. Slowly, I sat up. Then I saw her. She was standing right next to Piddy, her hair hanging in front of her face, and her figure gaunt, covered in bruises. Her hands, they had marks, dark finger-like bruises around her wrists, and her eyes, wild, haunting, full of something I couldn't quite understand. Who was she? A fan? A stalker? Why was she here? And why was Piddy just lying there oblivious? I felt a wave of jealousy, anger even. This woman, standing so close to him, made my skin crawl. I whispered, "Hey, who are you? What are you doing here?" The woman didn't respond. She just turned, her eyes hollow, and began walking away, her footsteps silent as though she floated rather than walked. Something about her was horribly wrong. My stomach churned, but I had to know. I followed her. She led me through the hallways. She seemed to belong here, like she'd walked these halls countless times before. I called out again, but she never looked back, never acknowledged me. Finally, we reached a hidden door, one I hadn't noticed before. The air grew colder with each step. I hesitated at the threshold, but I couldn't stop myself. When I entered the room, I gasped. There in the dim light were people, so many of them. Men, women, even teenagers, all bound, beaten, bruised. Their eyes were sunken, skin pale, and their bodies were covered in cuts and burns. Some were barely conscious, others seemed already gone. The sight was horrific. It didn't make sense. Why were they here? What was happening? One of the girls, a young teenager, lifted her head weakly and met my eyes.
He did this to us! He tricked us!
He promised us fame.
Another voice croaked.
He lured us here. Then he turned on us. This is what he does. He uses us, breaks us.
I stumbled back, trying to process what I was hearing. Pity, my pity. This couldn't be real. But the blood, the bruises, it was right in front of me. I needed proof. I fumbled for my phone, trying to steady my hands enough to take a photo. I snapped a picture, then another. Suddenly, I felt a presence behind me. My breath caught in my throat, and slowly, I turned. Pity stood there watching me. His face was calm, devoid of emotion. He didn't look surprised, nor angry, just indifferent.
What are you doing, Ailey?
My voice cracked. What is this, Pity? What the hell is this? He took a step closer, his eyes dark and unreadable.
They did it to themselves, you know. Moths to a flame. They wanted to be near the light, but the light burns. It's not my fault.
I stepped back, horrified. You did this to them?
They wanted fame.
He interrupted, his tone chilling.
I gave them what they asked for. If they couldn't handle it, that's on them. And you're just another one of them.
The words cut through me like a knife. I looked around, the faces of the people I'd just spoken to now lying lifeless, crumpled on the floor like discarded dolls. They weren't alive. I stumbled back. The woman I had followed, she was one of them. A ghost, just like the rest. Pity had killed them. He had killed them all. I backed toward the door, but Pity stepped closer, his smile icy.
You can't leave, Ailey. You're part of this now.
But then, the spirits, the people Pity had harmed, began to rise. Their ghostly figures surrounded Pity, their faces filled with anger and vengeance. They weren't going to let him hurt me.
Run! Run now!
Without thinking, I turned and bolted up the stairs. I couldn't stop. Behind me, I could hear Pity yelling, his voice twisted with fury. The ghosts were holding him back, but I didn't know for how long. I burst out of the mansion and ran to my car. When the engine roared to life, I sped away, the mansion disappearing behind me. I couldn't let anyone else fall into his trap. I had to go to the police. I had to make sure this nightmare ended.